أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم والتابعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. My dear brother and sister in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we have some topics, and inshallah we need to start with one at a time, inshallah.
What is the purpose of the rules and regulations?
What is the purpose of rule and regulation? Sometimes people complain and they said Islam is too tough. It's too much regulation, too much rules. Why? And sometimes we forget we are a slave, a servant of the Creator. The Creator is the owner, He's the master, and we just a slave. And the Creator has wisdom over the regulation, meaning He give us all this ruling and all this regulation. For what? And this will bring another topic. Why?
The secret wisdom of worship and ruling, and the secret of the 5 times salah and the rest of worship.
Okay. What happened is, sometimes we try to understand some of this ruling and some of this regulation. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes for some other it doesn't make sense. And sometimes we feel like, what is the wisdom behind it? What is the wisdom behind fasting? What is the wisdom behind 5-time praise? What's the wisdom behind Hajj? Each one of this has a wisdom. But before we go to them, we have to understand the main principle of how the Creator do things with us. And we will give an example. You're working for a company. You have a manager. And the manager, he wants to test his worker. What he does? He can send a certain command and a certain regulation. It might not feel to some people really make sense. What's the wisdom behind it? The wisdom behind it is to see the status of the obedience. It might be in a hidden agenda, meaning he gives a rule, he gives a regulation, but the intention not really to fulfill this rule, but the intention is to see who will obey completely blindly. And this will show the president who is among the workers a true, obedience to him. And to Allah the high example. Sometimes some people said, why? 5-time pray, too much. Or we do this is too much. Or why is this rule? What's the purpose behind it? It doesn't make sense. But actually in the hidden of what you call it doesn't make sense is actually the main sense, which we call it the hidden wisdom of Allah for His own ruling, to test our obedience. Allah do not need our fasting. Allah do need our worship. He have angels worship day and night. But what is it? It is a state of obedience. Sometimes if you go to Hajj, you ask yourself, why this Jamarat? Or why I make 7-time tawaf? Why it is 7? But it's with some of the regulation for you with the power of intellect might say why. But actually, the main wisdom behind it is the missing why, or the missing answer. Sometimes a husband or a wife can give a certain want or a desire from the husband or a wife, and this want might be not really make sense, but to test the closeness, to test the connection. By this way, the really topic is obedience. Because the whole thing in this life is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala test a status of obedience. This is the whole thing all about. Because your own servancy, your own slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to the obedience. And this is why is a verse in Quran, in Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 20. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said of the meaning of, and actually it is the half of the verse. And we make you fitna, a trial to each other. Do you will be patient, or you will be patient? And Allah is all seeing, Allah all knowing. وَجَعَلْنَا بَعْضَكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ بَصِيرًا وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ خَبِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all seen. By this way, when somebody asks, or even shaitan, sometimes the devil come and ask, why we pray 5 times? It's too much. Or why we wake up at Fajr time? Why we do this? Why we do that? What is the main benefit? We will find out in Islam is a lot of ruling has some benefit, seen benefit. This is what we call it, seen benefit, known benefit. And you have a lot of ruling, unknown benefit. And actually the highest level of the ruling of the unknown benefit. We will never know the real benefit and wisdom of Allah behind it. And actually the main wisdom and benefit is in the obedience. Because at this time it will show sincerity. Sincerity hidden in the obedience. This is why if you do good to somebody do bad is very difficult. But it shows again obedience. Obedience to whom? To Allah. To be good to somebody good is easy. But to be good to somebody is bad to you is difficult. Very difficult. And this is the main wisdom behind it. Do you really swallow it just for Allah, or you will just become arrogant? Once you become a little bit arrogant, you lost what? Servancy. You lost slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By this way, in Islam we have to know some of the rules and regulations. We know some of the benefit and wisdom behind it. But the majority is we do not know. Only Allah knows. It is what you call it, hidden benefit and wisdom. Why? To test our obedience.
The secret behind Surah Al-Fatiha.
And this is why Surah Al-Fatiha, one scholar, which is the first chapter in Quran, one scholar, he wrote actually 4-volume books. The 4-volume books actually not written for Surah Al-Fatiha, it's written for one verse only from Surah Al-Fatiha. Why? Because he say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sent many books, many revelation, many messages, and he summarized it in Zabur, Torah, Injil, and Quran. This is the mean for scripture. And this four, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarized it in Al-Quran. And Al-Quran, the whole revelation, has been summarized in Surah Al-Fatiha. And Surah Al-Fatiha has been summarized in one verse. This is why Surah Al-Fatiha has another name. Al-Kitab, the mother of the book. Imagine one chapter, only 7 verse, and this 7 verse, okay, is actually containing everything in this book, which is the book of Quran. This is why some scholar can give you Surah Al-Fatiha in volume after volume and just to give you the understanding of it. And now, this scholar, he wrote this 4 volume not only for Surah Al-Fatiha, only for 2 verses inside Surah Al-Fatiha. And he said the whole deen of Islam for only these 2 verses. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you, Allah, we worship, and only you, Allah, we seek guidance and help and support. And this was the whole thing all about. Now,
what's the difference between the rules for men and women?
What's the difference between the rule and regulation for men and women? You see, this is one of the another wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes today some women complain, some men complain. Allah ruling to me is different than Allah ruling to men. Again, is a hidden wisdom. The same topic we talk about it. Who's the master? Who's the ruler? Who's the Rabb? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master, He is the ruler, I have to be number one, said, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We listen and we obey. This is number one. سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We listen and